Hello everyone, my name is Ashley McCoy and I work at the Office of School Support as a teacher on special assignment. And I'm going to be taking you through some consistent procedures, expectations, give you some examples of what a green room check-in, check-out form can look like, along with some materials and resources that you can take with you when implementing a green room space. So we're going to start out with consistent procedures, which is probably the most important part of implementing a green room space. It is important that students are supported in performing the same routine every time this room is used, so they can begin to internalize the process of identifying their emotions, identifying what sensory tools are helpful to them, and using the tools effectively to regulate themselves within an appropriate amount of time. And the reason why we stress this consistent procedures portion so much is, unfortunately, chaotic and unpredictable environments are sometimes created when a room is poorly designed or personnel aren't trained how to properly use the room. We find that it's essential that the support personnel understand how to use the room itself and not just focus on how to use the equipment inside of it. We find that one of the most common mistakes is when folks go into the green room and they turn every piece of equipment on. This can be very overly stimulating for some kiddos. And if used incorrectly, students can exhibit self-injuries or aggressive behavior. Next are some sample sensory room expectations. So here are some that you can use and implement for your green room, or if you want to take a few and create your own, that's totally fine. These are just to help you get started. So for staff, we want to make sure that the sensory room stays a quiet, calm, and relaxing place. Really important that you remember to log your time in the sensory room, and that you must stay with the student at all times. And then for our students, we want to make sure that they continue to keep the room quiet, calm, and relaxing, just like the adult. They may only enter the sensory room with permission from an adult. They must also be accompanied by an adult at all times, and make sure that all sensory items stay in the sensory room. So here is what a routine can look like when implementing a green room. So that first step is to ensure that there is a green room check-in form, which again, I'll show you later. If there are students that use the room regularly, they may have their own sign-in page that they take with them. 2, students should use the provide visuals to select their mood and zone. So if you are a zones of regulation school, this is familiar to those students to identify, are they in the red, green, or yellow zone? And that's really important for kids to identify that when they enter. Again, 3, if you are implementing zones of regulation, helping students look at the options of their toolbox visual and select 2 items they may want to, or 2 tools that they might want to use when in the green room. Setting a timer for 4 minutes per activity is about the appropriate amount of time, making sure we give those visual warnings when that timer is about to end. It's really important that we end with a deep breathing activity with the student. That is when they will go back to the check-in form, check-out form, and fill out what zone they're leaving when they exit the green room. And then finally, we want to make sure that we support the child in picking up the space and making sure it looks the same way it did when they entered, and then making sure that we have sanitized the tools that they used so that the next person can use them. So again, this is just an example of how you use a green room space. Here is that example I alluded to, that green room check-in form. This one was shared with me from a staff member at Benjamin E. Mays. And here at their school, they have the child write down their name or enter their name, their grade level, who their teacher is, the date and time, what color zone they are entering the space with, what color zone they are leaving with, and then any comments that the teacher might want to add, or the adult might want to add at the end. Something like, this child came in very dysregulated. was able to use the sensory sand to calm themselves down, and now they are ready for class. This school is choosing to do the check-in form electronically, but you don't have to. I feel like when schools do it electronically, it's just easier to collect the data. But again, you don't have to do it this way. And this form will be available for schools to make a copy of and use if they'd like to. Some things to remember when implementing a green room space. We don't want students that are in the red zone, which is that out of control zone, to enter the space. It's research has shown that when students are in the red zone, their brains are just not properly wired to be in a space to be hearing anything. They're not, they're wired to not, they're not thinking about anything rational at that point. So we do not want students to come in when they're in the red zone. When possible, only one student and one staff should be in the room at a time. Use calm and steady voice, and be aware that some students benefit from fewer words to regulate. So again, having visuals in the space might be helpful. You can just point to the picture and see if they want to try that tool. Remember that a movement break is used to help a student regulate and should never be a part of punishment or force a student who is not ready to benefit from sensory activity. So if a student is acting out, we never want to tell them that they have to go in there. We don't want it to have a negative connotation. Keep students safe, so stay near them and keep arms ready to prevent the student from falling or getting hurt or damaging the equipment. The sensory room should be used for 5 to 15 minutes. So if students are not regulated after 15 minutes, try another strategy in another space. Be mindful of the room schedule and other students who may be coming to use the space at their scheduled time.